right? So we will first see what is the difference between React and Angular, and I will not go more deep, but at higher level, so that you know at least what is the difference between React and Angular, and why, and then you can decide which one is good, which one is bad, or which one is suitable at which situation. That we can say rather than good or bad, right? So right. So first thing, can anyone tell what is who created React and who created Angular? Which big brand? And I think in the first session I already told you, right? Like, who is Angular? Who is the creator of Angular, let's say? Who gave Angular to the world? Google, no? It is a Google product, right?
Okay.
Right? Angular came from Google, means Google was using it and they outsourced it, right? Similarly, what about React? It was?
Microsoft.
No, it was?
Yahoo.
No, where you share your photos.
Google.
Not Instagram, Facebook. So this guy, right? Facebook. So they are backed up with good brand, right? React is from Facebook, and Angular is from Google. So both are good competitor. Both are good front-end framework that we can use. But it depends where you want to use what kind of thing, right? So why you prefer Angular and not React, let's say, or why you prefer React not Angular? So if you go to any company, any interview, they may ask you this kind of questions like why you chose React, why you chose Angular, or in the new project which framework we should choose. They can ask to you also, right? So as per my knowledge, what happens is in Angular, it goes around, it comes from the object-oriented programming paradigm. Let's say if you have been doing object-oriented programming, like either in Java or C#, and you know what is class, what is inheritance, polymorphism, and then interface, and then multiple inheritance through interface and all. So if you want to leverage those concepts, right, and also want to do dependency injection, which is the most useful thing, right? So then at that time, mostly Angular shines over the React, right? So in Angular, you can do all object-oriented programming stuff, right? You can do dependency injection and like I said, inheritance, polymorphism, all of that, right? And in the React, mostly, I don't think DI is mostly it is there, like out of the box, like if you just ask some dependency and React will inject, I don't think it is there, right? So it is not upfront there. Second thing is this is second, I think this is one, this is third thing, right? And then the third thing is, in Angular, you have HTML separated from the code base. So for example, you are creating a component, right? And for that component, there is a HTML part and there is a behavior part where you write some code, right? And both are separate. So HTML is separate and behavior is separate. Other thing is, and also in HTML, you can have in a separate file also. Right, and there is an option you can embed in the same file as well.
Yes.
So that way, what happens, like you can develop your application very fastly. Means you can give some of the UI HTML part to your, let's say, HTML programmer who are just pure HTML programmer. They don't know anything, UX programmer, but they know HTML and CSS. You can give them HTML part, CSS part, develop it, and then whoever is the front-end framework developer, let's say Angular developer, they just know where the file is, right? You just want to know where the file is, and then you give some template, they put that template, now they are designing it, right? And they know basic HTML. So that way HTML is doable as a separate from the component, right? However, in the React, HTML is not a separate thing basically, right? In React, you there may be the option that you can put it in a separate file, but normally they don't put in React, they just put it in the same file. So in the React, they have a JSX file basically, right? So if it is a TS, then TSX file, right? And then what they do is, this is for the scripting basically. They do scripting, HTML scripting and everything inside that. So let's say if you create a component in the React and there is a function, right, and which has a render function, and in the render function you are supposed to return the HTML that they want to that you want to render, and that is what that HTML is that you can say button, I want to render a button. So you can just do button like this, and then it will render that button to you, for you, right? So you have to put the HTML within the same component file. That is one thing. Second thing is, this HTML is not a regular HTML, because some of the attributes, let's say class, you cannot just say class, maybe it is a class name or some different attributes. It's not exactly whatever we use in HTML. So that is what it is, more of like a JSX. It is JavaScript plus HTML. So it's a special file basically, and you need a separate compiler for that. Right? So basically it is a special file where you can write HTML as well, and you mostly, as per my knowledge, you cannot create a separate HTML file. You cannot have a pure HTML file that you can just implement it or use it, right? It has its own structure to write that HTML with some different syntax format also. So that is what I think, this is something, the negative thing I think, because now you need a separate HTML programmer who cannot contribute here. It's all about the, you have to know the React for just doing HTML also. Okay. Second thing is, since it is in one file, I don't think again you can do parallel development, right? Which is again, I think, something not good that I feel. And then dependency injection, which I said, like, it is missing. So you have to inject your dependency by your own self. You have to make sure that when you are calling a module, you pass when you call a module, you are passing the dependency by your own self, right? Or if framework is giving you some of the dependency, that's a separate thing that will come to you. But let's say, for example, you are creating a component. Let's say you are creating some component, and in that component, like automatically there will be a state property that basically React provides you, right? Once you create that state property, and then it will automatically restore and provide and all of that. React will do. Per component, it will give you the state of that component. So I think that is what is already injected from the framework. But however, REST objects, you have to basically pass it by your own self. You have to manage that dependency. And if you learn dependency injection system in Angular, then you will appreciate like how complicated it is, how sophisticated they have designed in Angular the dependency injection, and which is solving a lot of important problems, which is basically missing kind of thing in React.
So React doesn't support object-oriented programming, or it just don't support dependency injection?
DI doesn't support. Okay. And object-oriented programming is something that you can do by your own. You can create classes and do inheritance, all of that. If you are using TypeScript, you will do that, right? If you are doing TypeScript with React, you will do all that interface and all of that object-oriented thing, right? But in object-oriented principle, a dependency injection is also there, which is basically something missing, right? And then other thing is, these are all like advantages that I told in the Angular over React, right? And there are some good thing in React that is basically I appreciate. What are the good things? So let me first erase this little bit. So what is the good thing that we can say, okay, React could be a good candidate at some point, is very less ceremony. That is the good part. When you are writing React code, you have very less ceremony. Means, suppose in Angular you want to create a component, you have to write @component and then pass all of the metadata, and then class component, you have to write your own component. This is a component, and inside the component you do constructor, right? And then here either you can do template, and in that template you can define your own template, right? And then write the selector and put your name of the selector. Let's say if this selector is the CSS selector, basically. You can put any selector. So I can put my a component or something like that, right? So all of this
for
Angular. And this is like a lot of code. I think I know it is very minimum now. Initially it was very difficult also, but it is minimum. Like you write metadata decorator, component decorator, selector, template, and then class and all of that, right? But let's do in React then how it looks like, right? So if you do in React, it's very less ceremony. If you do just React, just write your component name. Let's say my button. If this is my component, I just inherit from, you can extend it from the component, and then once you extend it, you don't need to write anything, you just need to override a function called as render. So there is a render function that framework will call for you, like on init and all of that you have in the Angular.
Yeah.
Similarly, the render function is something that React will call, and what they will expect from you, just the HTML part. So basically you will say, I need to render a button, and then put the button, and let's say hello. That's it. And wherever you will put this this component, it will render that thing for you. So very less ceremony, and it is very fast to develop. That is the good thing that I like it. Otherwise, the other thing that I told you, those are the stuff, right? So less ceremony is one advantage, and second advantage is the React Native part. Like React Native is such a framework that if you write the code over there, and that code can be converted and it will run in any mobile application, let's say, right? So the knowledge is same, React, but it will work in all of the mobile applications and like iPad, iPhone and all of that, and then it works with the native capability of the small devices, right? So that is what basically the difference is. And then if you want to quickly develop some of the projects which are very small and quickly you want to develop, I would say don't do Angular at that time. You can just go with React and do quickly prototype some idea and just give it to them, right? But if you assume that this project will become little complex, and in the future it will become complex, and I need all this object oriented and software programming, DI and all of that, then prefer doing Angular. So there are many complex projects that are done in React, but maximum people just go with the Angular at that time, right? So that's how the difference is, and that is how I also chose Angular, and then we are doing Angular here, right? But we can do React at some point. We can learn little bit React. React learning is not that much lengthy process. It is simple and easy to understand. Like I said, it is very less ceremony, so there are less things hidden. There is nothing hidden there. It's like simple steps, and it just does that task. Like Vue.js.